and having only just recovered from Meghan Markle's fake racism allegations and the highly contentious Ngozi Fulani pantomime, stepped forward the Independent newspaper to try and drag the royal family into yet another race row. The lefty outfit uncovered over 40, quote, offensive racial terms used in a royal collection trust guide to jewellery, which have now all been removed after the trust was alerted to them. So, Governor Mackenzie, is this simply an accurate reflection of a bygone era, or evidence of racism as the likes of Harry and Meghan would want us to believe?
I think it just represents a load of old fuddy-duddies within the royal family who doesn't understand that actually even the softest version of the N-word is basically unacceptable. And anyway, it's never going to reprint it, never going to see the light of day anyway. So it's a bit like The Independent, because that's not likely to see the light of day either.
Now, look, moving on, Calvin, we exclusively revealed tonight that there's a potentially deadly scabies outbreak looming at the Essex migrant camp RAF Weatherfields. Migrants being transferred there from the Manson processing facility, not being screened for infectious diseases as promised. And we're also told they're actually able to go out in the community before they've got this test, apparently, to pick up free cigarettes.
No, the whole thing is just completely wrong. I mean, the fact that we should be giving them proper examinations when they arrive. They shouldn't be arriving at all. And Jenrick was 100% right when he said, Labour say, don't do this, don't do that, don't do the other. The Lib Dems say, don't do this, don't do that, don't do the other. What is the solution? What is the solution? My solution is to take out the smugglers. OK, everybody, oh, God, how terrible that is. War against people who want to bring 170,000 people to our shores without coming through the official
almost treat them as terrorist organisations.
The smugglers are massively well funded, bloody clever, and are outsmarting the Dummkopfs in the UK and also the Dummkopfs across the EU. Why don't they feel as bad about it as the voters do? And, you know, what about the House of Lords? A collection of old blinking fuddy-duddies, religious people who've been in there for 1,000 years, suddenly saying, oh, you've got to change that, you've got to change that. They have no idea. We have politicians who aren't fit to run our country on this very important issue. What are we going to do? Keep taking in hundreds of thousands every year, right? We've got an education system that doesn't work, an NHS system which even the unions, even the bloody consultants on 200,000 a year say it's not working, right? We have to do something strong. And actually, we're not doing anything to stop these people coming in. I don't want... I'm sure we've got scabies in our country. We don't want any more of it. Why am I the only person that feels that we should deal with the smugglers and deal with them in a violent way?
Well, I think that is obviously one argument, but the point is there are lots of other things that Sunak could have done. I believe if he wanted to win the next election on his first day as Prime Minister, he should have declared this a national emergency. I mean, I did that, I think, in November 2021. It truly is. And say immediately, we're going to leave the ECHR so that we can do these sorts of deals like Rwanda.
OK, but let me ask you this. You say that. Do you think that... first of all, Labour would go, oh, how terrible. But don't you think there's half the Conservative benches would be saying, oh, I'm not sure, I'm not sure. And yet they go back to their constituencies and they say, we're on your side.
We want to stop the votes.
Right.
But they're not prepared to do anything about it.
And this is the problem. Where do we find politicians who actually say, I want to actually solve this important issue?
I know. And the most frustrating thing is that if he had stopped the votes, rather than just using it as a meaningless slogan, because he's not going to, he hasn't, and he certainly won't before the next election, he could have won. He could have won.
It would certainly have given him a chance.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
And I think with this invasion continuing, his chances
that's right.
gone. And now, look, breaking tonight, Kelvin, the Times newspaper reporting the BBC is facing a formal review into its future of its funding amid concerns in government that the licence fee is unsustainable. So ministers are expected to formally announce a review of its funding model in the autumn, which will consider alternatives including subscription, a broadband levy, increased commercial activity and advertising. A government source has told the newspaper the evidence that there is growing unwillingness to pay is shown by figures each year. The licence fee model is becoming unsustainable. The really frustrating thing about this, though, Calvin Mackenzie, is they've probably left it too late.
Right, but the good news is 500,000 people don't pay it anymore. This is increasing all the time. The great news is if they brought in advertising, which would be a laugh, actually, that would be the end of Channel 5. Well, that would be no loss, and it would probably kill Channel 4 as well. So there is going to be a benefit. But the reality is that if they went down the subscription model, they would probably do quite well.
Yeah.
They would bring in almost certainly more than the $3 billion. But remember, it would give us a choice whether we wanted to pay the subscription or not.
Yeah.
And that's what they don't want to do.
Yeah, because they would have to make shows that people actually want to watch.
They don't. So actually, with all TV audiences, with the exception, of course, of the Dan Wootton show, are actually in full-scale collapse. Channel 5 is a complete disaster, 4 is, and even 3 is no good. So actually, we may be beginning to see the end of a bill coming through your post, which you are not using, the BBC, but you're being forced to pay for it.
And it's about time. It is about time. I mean, this is, I think, the worst poll tax in existence, because we are being forced to fund an organisation that goes fundamentally against so much of what so many of us believe.
But yeah, well, there'll be some people who want it.
Yeah,
there'll be some people,
pay for it.
Let them pay for it.
Because the outrage, Calvin, is that you actually can't turn GB News on terrestrial television, like Freeview, without paying your licence fee. So, sure, you can access us via Freeview. But, you know, if you want to watch something on ITV, if you want to watch something on Channel 5, you cannot do that in this country without paying the BBC licence. It is a disgrace.
It's utterly bizarre, and subscription has pointed out that the Americans, by and large, have pointed out people will pay, well, they will pay for something if they like it.
Yeah, but the BBC had an opportunity to prove that it could change after Brexit, and it said it would do that, and it simply hasn't.
No, I agree.
Calvin McKenzie, thank you so much. Uncancelled tonight.